we want them to have a conversation. In fact, it shows a lot of trust that they're willing to say that in our space, the space that we created. They're willing to give us that kind of feedback. They're willing to look at us in that way, and they're willing to have that conversation because now it enables us to engage with them at the table and talk with them about that rather than avoid that. And I think that is another fundamental difference between a community approach and, like a traditional marketing approach.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Oh yes, here we freaking go. I am so excited to share and introduce my guest with you today. It is not every day that I can bring someone on here that I have actually worked with. I've observed and just been in awe. Okay. There are communities, right? There are communities. We've talked a lot about them, all the different last episodes, all about communities. It's the word. We hear about it. You know what? I've joined a bunch of them. I've joined, 20 of them, and I've never consistently gone to them. I've never consistently stayed a member, participated, except for one. And it's the one that has been created and curated by my guest today. If that doesn't tell you something, like maybe we're gonna open up his brain too, and we're gonna dive in and get in there, and we're gonna learn what makes for a good community. And I'll foreshadow already right up front. A lot of what you think about community is wrong, and I can't wait for our guest to smash some of that today. But who is he? Serial entrepreneur, marketing leader, thought leader, community builder, and strategist. Serial founder, many companies, sold many of them, mentor. Again, community wizard is my word. Wizard like Gandalf, but of communities. And you know what? He's also a river guide. So over 40 communities. He's launched over 40 communities, even sold some. That's how you know he's creating value. Founder of Bridgio and a fractional community strategist. Paul Jones, welcome to the show, sir.
Wow. Thank you, Casey. That was the best intro I've ever heard for myself. And now I have to live up to that. So thank you.
Well, it's all downhill from there, right? Let's
Exactly.
hop on the raft and boat away, man. Dude, I'm excited to have you on here. So I'm going to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you can handle it because, it's like lighter than a paddle.
Okay. I'm ready. Yep.
All right. Ugh. Okay, here it is.
The hammer.
The hammer. All right, take that. Go ahead, grab it. You got it? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
Oh, yeah, nice. One-handed grab of Thor's hammer. Let's go. This is how you know power is about to go down. All right, Paul, take from me Thor's hammer, smash some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. I have to start with the story.
Yes.
So, and this will frame it up a little bit. I am doing, I'm doing this challenge, this elevation hiking challenge, with a friend of mine, and we're just hiking up, the side of the ski slopes in the fall. And he's talking about his e-com business. And, he had started an e-com business many, many years ago. And, I had come up with a few ideas for a couple products that I always go to him and I'm like, hey, does it have enough margin in it to actually get to market and run ads and like get traction in the market? And I was always blown away with no, you're going to have to charge so much more for that product just to pay for the advertising. And so he was telling me a little bit about this, that he spends on Meta and on Google, and he was formerly an advertising executive for an advertising firm, and he's spending majority of his revenue in marketing efforts. And we're just, we're hiking up this thing. And the entire time I'm thinking, this is insane. Like, who do you work for? Are you working for yourself, or are you working for Google and Meta when you're giving up over 50, 60% of your margin to them just so that you can get a customer? That's insane. So the myth that I'm trying to the myth that I'm gonna bust right here, right now, is that you are spending more on marketing than you have ever spent, and you're getting less from it than you've ever gotten. So marketing is dying. In its current form, marketing is dying. It's not working anymore. And how long are we going to give these insane because what? We can't find the customer? Like we're so afraid of finding the customer. We're going to pay a premium on these platforms to go find these customers. And there's so much there. I just feel like there's so much at play here. So look at marketing. Here's some other, food for thought.
Yeah.
On in the executive suite, marketers, CMO, lowest tenure in the executive suite. So they turn over the most. So you've got that. Then you've got CRMs now dominate how you're interacting with your potential customer, which is great. Awesome. You can utilize CRMs to engage your customer. But the drawback to that is that CRMs force you to operate inside a certain box. Like the order of operations for everybody else is the same. So, unbeknownst to you, while you're trying to differentiate yourself, you're actually not differentiating yourself because you're following the same order of operations that everybody else is following. And therefore, that's leading to lower conversion rates. So we're just seeing significant lower conversion rates, but people are so desperate that they're doubling down on the spend. So right now, it is prime for new revenue acquisition models. And that's what everyone's looking for. A couple of years ago, one of the communities that I created was a community of CMOs. And I asked them, what's the future of marketing? And they all said community. And what was interesting to me is a year before that, I had sold a community of community managers. And so I knew the voice of the community manager really well. And give you a quick history on that. Community management, or the word community, got really big because companies they started these communities not as a marketing play in the beginning. They started these communities as support deflection. So when you look at a business, your biggest hit to COGS is going to be your customer support or client success function. So, businesses were looking for ways to make that more efficient. And so they started a community where, customers could go and get help from other customers, and that takes away time from their paid employees, which they don't have to grow, et cetera. So that's where community started. And then 2 years ago, it started to make this transition over into sales and marketing. And that was the biggest struggle that community managers were struggling with was, we want to show ROI. We want to be able to get new clients and new customers. But marketers were looking at community going, oh, I didn't tell you what happened. I asked them what the future of marketing was, and they all said community.
Yeah.
But I knew that they didn't know what they were talking about because all the community managers that were reporting to CMOs hated it. Because,
Wow.
yeah, because the marketers were looking at the community as MQLs, and they wanted to get MQLs out of those communities. But the community managers going, no, this isn't a churn and burn approach to community. Community is more like a garden. You have to grow it and you have to give it time and et cetera, et cetera. And so most of the community managers that are reporting to, and it's probably still true today. This was a year ago. I would guess it's still true today. If you have a community manager that's reporting to you and you're a CMO, they probably hate reporting to you because you don't get communities. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, I had so many conversations. If you're a community manager, you're either going to be on the client success support side, or you're going to be on the marketing side. And there's so much that's happening on the, new customer acquisition side, go to market side of things, that it's all relatively new. And so there's a lot of challenges with that.
Man, shots fired. It is broken. It is disconnected, and community is the answer. Everyone sees it, but they're just executing it so wrong. So how do you balance? It's almost like, when the ocean meets the river, right? It's my favorite. It's like when those two things meet, I need the MQLs. I'm the CMO. I don't want to get
Right.
fired. But
Right.
then I want to grow this garden, but I gotta harvest some flowers for my wife. So like, how soon can you get me some flowers?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, think back to this. Like, and this is why I think marketing's kind of gotten out of control,
Yeah.
is because what was marketing originally? It was brand awareness.
Yeah.
And that's always hard to get an ROI on, right?
Sure.
With modern day CRMs, and again, this is going back to the benefit of having a CRM system, there are unique ways to create attribution from a community, a touch point or something like that. So you have that element to it, but community in a lot of ways is more so awareness, I would say, than anything else. Now, people do some unique things to to create those MQLs, but you can't go to a community for the sake of getting those flowers, because you're just gonna you're gonna stifle the growth, or people are gonna become distrustworthy. There's so many
Mm,
cool things. Like, for example, this is such a great example. A lot of companies, so everyone's diving into community right now. Everyone's like, yeah, we got to have a community. And what people are doing, what's interesting, all the cool stories that come out of real communities is when companies started their customer communities and their customers hated the product. And they talked about how much they hated the product. Now, a company is going to do one of two things in that scenario. One, they're going to shut down that channel and they're going to delete the comments. And guess who's saying that? Marketing saying that, right?
yeah.
A community manager says, no, we want them to have a conversation. In fact, it shows a lot of trust that they're willing to say that in our space, the space that we created. They're willing to give us that kind of feedback. They're willing to look at us in that way, and they're willing to have that conversation because now it enables us to engage with them at the table and talk with them about that rather than avoid that. And I think that is another fundamental difference between a community approach and, like a traditional marketing approach is, hey, let's social proof everything that we're doing. We're awesome. And a community is, come in here, let's chat about what the challenges are. And at the end of the day, when people are following that thread, they will respect you more because they see your dedication to the problem that you're trying to solve or the product that you're selling or whatever it might be.
What a cool topic that has evolved here, because I feel a little bit like there's a parallel with podcasts have the same kind of thing, right? You can get business from guests and audience and customers, but it's not one of those things it's not PPC landing page, squeeze page thing. So I can't expect roses from the garden, but I have to pay the gardener.
And you have to grow the roses in the first place.
I have
Yeah.
to grow the roses. But what's the idea? Every now and then, people will give me a bouquet that I can give to my wife.
Well, yeah. So here's another, I think, fundamental difference
Yeah,
is starting off, let's go 10, 15 years ago.
sure.
What's the whole marketing motion? The whole marketing motion is who's your persona and what's the pain that you solve?
Yep.
Well, the thing about a persona is, you might find that they have a pain along a journey. You might find that they have a pain as they grow to a certain, place or whatever it might be. Like, that's such a myopic way of looking at that persona, right? So then what we do in marketing is we say, okay, we are going to broadcast the pain solution to everybody. And I feel like everyone's got that play down. This is outbound, this is inbound, everyone's got this play down, right? But the community approach to this is it's more holistic. So you might have a solution that you solve for um, a particular pain that you solve for, but the problem is that your persona has an entire history or an entire presence of problems that they're dealing with at any given time.
Yeah.
And so this is where I think actually community and marketing are going to create are intertwined to create a really strong rope, is because now what you say as a brand is you're saying, you know what? Yeah, we solve this pain for you as a persona, but we are more invested than that in you as a persona. We want to help you with all your problems. And we don't care
Yeah.
necessarily where you get those solutions. We just want to invest in knowing you, knowing your challenges, building the relationship with you. It's like, I forget the book, but I went into Apple. This was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I had what was it? I had some problem. I think I had a crack. I think it was a crack screen or something. And I met with,
No, those things don't ever crack.
yeah,
No.
they don't break. Get out of here. It was something else. Anyway, I had a problem. I was at the Genius Bar. The woman diagnosed my problem, and she told me what the price was going to be to fix it with Apple. And I was like, wow, that is so expensive. And then she kind of like, whispered, and she's like, yeah, but if you go down here, I think you could probably get it for half. I'm like, thank you. So I went to their potential competitor, but where does my loyalty stay? My loyalty actually stays with Apple and the Genius Bar because now they're a trusted resource for me because they're going to send me to the right place. So,
Classic. Macy's. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that one of the things that's on the edge right now is, to your point, Casey, is you have this garden and this garden of roses, and when the rose blooms, you want to be able to harvest that. So that would be in the form of pain. When pain happens, you want people to know what you do. So let me juxtapose that to this. I built another community, and we had built it with this client for 2 years. And they were all in on that. We don't sell, we bring you in to have these types of conversations, blah, blah, blah. 2 years in, some of the longstanding members approached us and said, hey, by the way, we love what you're doing here, but we're a little confused because we don't know what you do.
Yeah.
So when the rose blooms, there's no one there that's
Mm.
gonna, snip it and take it away. And so part of that is you have to do it in a delicate way, but people have to know what it is that you do. And that goes back to original marketing, brand awareness, or whatever that might be. So you do still have to have that presence. And that's what I think helps you get that bouquet at the end.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But there's definitely a bit of delayed gratification in that. It's not the instant marketing that, you know what? Hey, we're in B2B for a reason, right? I think sometimes it's trying to operate a B2B world like a B2C marketer. Like, yeah, buy my $100,000 thing tomorrow. Not going to happen, man. You gotta nurture this thing. And the bigger the deal size, the more important that community is, that you don't mess with it, right? That you don't go try to pick things early. You just gotta let them grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to get good at identifying. So one of the, and this is going to differ from, community as a whole industry, and it's its own thing, and people do it for a lot of different reasons. When I approach community, I want to create a community of pain. It goes back to the Sandler selling method. Like you can't sell anyone until you know what their pain is. But you have to recognize that people in your community are going to have all kinds of different pains. And so you want to be able to provide a space where they can get valuable solutions, whether it's your solution or not. So at some point, your solution is going to overlap with someone's pain. So this is like just staying ever present with your persona. And the other thing that I would point out too, that's come out that I've noticed over time with communities is, this is another example. I built a community for a client. They had their website, they had their value proposition, they thought it was right. And we always think our value propositions are right. The reality is that we're constantly tweaking and changing them all the time. And so when you create a community where pain is discussed, then you get to learn how they speak about it. You get to learn about how they think about it. Like, that's invaluable. That's going to save you money and time down the road. So case in point, this HR community that I built, we were tracking all the challenges that HR executives were having over 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
And what we realized, this actually happens often in the communities that I build, but what we realized is that the way they were talking about the pain is not the way that exactly the HR executives were talking about the pain. Here's another one for you. This one was really fun. So, customer support executives, we're asking them, what are your biggest challenges? What are your biggest challenges? And their biggest challenge consistently was employee turnover.
Yep.
My employee, and then second was my CS reps hate answering the same question over and over again. Well, this was an AI company, and initially their value prop was, hey, implement AI, save time, save money, and you don't need to scale your CS customer support as big, right? But after we looked at that, all of a sudden we were like, oh, wow, actually implement AI so that AI can take over all the questions that your reps hate answering over and over again so that they can deal with more nuanced, challenging problems that they like to solve, which is going to help you career path them even better
And prevent that turnover. Yeah.
and prevent employee turnover. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I see it. Full circle on that. And so the element of discovery, I mean, so many times on this pod, people are, and I've even said this, like we don't know the answer to that, so we hallucinate like AI. We make up our own answer based on our own bias, right? So even worse than even just using the wrong words, we think it's some other problem, and it's nothing to do with that problem whatsoever because we haven't actually asked.
Yeah.
And maybe we get kind of shy. We get marketing shy, hashtag, and we don't want to ask them these questions, But this is a great method for discovery too.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest advantage is discovery. Yeah.
And actually knowing what the deal is, the ongoing relationship. Tell you what, man, like the community that I've been a part of, that you created, and that's how we met, was through this community. It would be one of those, and I've always explained it to people because they can relate to this. It's on the calendar, and I go, yeah, if something really important steps on that, I'll join that. But man, if nothing's there, I'll join. And I usually kind of like a student, like a kid. I'm like, oh, do I want to? Am I gonna get value? And I inevitably every single time I go, I leave going, yeah, I met some really cool people. We connected a bunch on LinkedIn, and we're going to have some follow-up conversations. And I learned a couple takeaways, and I had fun, every time. And then eventually, once that kept happening, now I'm just like, okay, well, that I should go. Like, let's not miss that. Let's not plan that. Or, if I'm traveling, how can I still make
Mm.
that call? See, somehow the recipe there, like what is happening when I just described all that? What do you hear from like the community manager perspective?
Um, what's when we ask our participants, our community participants, what's your biggest takeaway? And this it's probably not going to be surprising to you, but it's going to be maybe a little bit surprising. The biggest, and a lot of people probably wouldn't admit it, but the biggest takeaway that we see consistently across all of them is I realized I'm not alone. Not from I need friends, but from I thought that the problems I was dealing with were just problems that I was dealing with. I didn't realize that other, you know, whatever, other people like me are having these exact same questions and are having these exact
Yeah.
same challenges. And so, one of the terms that I love about communities, and I don't know, you'll have to validate this on your side from your experience, because by the way, everybody, Casey, you get him in your community and he is the ringmaster. Like, he is the hype man. Like, I should actually just pay you to join our communities. You need a good sidekick like Casey in your community.
Dude, I need a side job too. That sounds great,
Yeah. You come in there and you're like, "Holy, yeah, this is awesome. Oh, my group is the best." Like, you are the
Yeah,
hype
yeah,
man.
breakout group. Oh, breakout group 11 was the
Yeah.
best. O'Doyle rules,
Doyle
Yeah.
rules. Yeah, it's awesome, dude. I love it. You bring such a cool energy to our calls. Um,
But when you were managing it, you put up with it too. That was one of the things that impressed me, right? Because there's a little trolling involved
oh
there
yeah. Oh yeah.
sometimes, and you just like rolled with it, and you were like, "Cool, hey, shout out to Casey putting a ridiculous joke in the chat," like whatever. It was just you wrangled it in. It was
Well,
awesome.
and some people get uncomfortable with that. That's
Yeah,
probably one of the biggest challenges is if you think about it, I like to call what I do webinars because it's the exact opposite of a webinar. And a webinar is really well planned, like depending on who you are. And I'm not this person necessarily. I like to just kind of go with it and whatever happens. And there's pros and cons to that, trust me. But um with a webinar, you're planning your topics lead from one to the other. But with our, community event approach, every persona, and this is what's fun actually, every persona is different.
Yeah.
Some personas, and I learned this with river guiding, and I learned this as a waiter in at the Grand Canyon, is you have to be able to read the people you're interacting with. And I'm not saying I'm the best at this, but there's definitely what's going to happen on a call like that where people are coming to interact with other people is that culture is just like going to form. It's going to be there. And you are a big part of that in terms of how you're going to do this. You can stay rigid and not let that kind of form, or you can try to embrace it and wrangle it to some degree and then let that kind of play out. But it's really interesting. Every persona is different, and that's what makes it kind of fun. And you don't nail it every time, but
Yeah. Do they all interact different ways at
yeah.
different yeah. And,
Yeah.
little fractional, little marketing leadership, community. We get we get a little fun in there
Yeah,
for
yeah. We're a
sure.
little rowdy.
Yeah. A little rowdy. Yeah, a little rowdy. So, okay, so, one of the things you had mentioned earlier with the idea that it feels good to have other people just even at a minimum in the same room, maybe a breakout, and you hear that they had the same problem or challenge that you had or have, and you're like, I'm just not alone. But the I took from that was then I need to make sure I have people in the community that do have the ability to potentially have the same problem. And it's like I need to have some of the same people in there and not just add everyone in. That idea
Yes.
of that catch-all community.
Yeah.
How do you balance that out? How do you let
Yeah.
enough people in, but not too many of the wrong people?
Okay, this might sound a little bit too far out, but this is kinda how I think about it. So I think about, what I noticed in doing this is sometimes you can put people into a breakout room, and you never do more than 5, but sometimes you can put people into a breakout room, and they are just gonna boom, like, they're just going to the chemistry is there, and they're gonna immediately it's all about feeling seen, heard, and respected. "Oh, okay. I understand who Casey is. Casey understands who I am. Now we can chat with each other about these common issues," right? So, um, it's connection chemistry that you have to think of it that way. So the reason why I anchor on chemistry is because you've got in chemistry, you've got the noble gases like, okay, CO2, carbon and oxygen are always going to be attracted to each other. You put them in a space together, what happens? Carbon dioxide, CO2, right? H2O, right? So when you're building these types of communities, you have to think exactly what you said. You have to think from a perspective of if I'm getting these people together, is there enough shared challenges that they're going to be able to immediately start to talk? And the other thing that I think is really fun about this community approach is something called positive deviance. So, and positive deviance lead to breakthroughs. So
It sounds like me. Positive deviance.
you're a total positive
Let's
deviant.
go.
Yeah, totally. So positive deviant is someone that's doing something different from others, but getting positive results. So when you and a lot of people join the communities to understand what best practices are, but additionally, if you can really get good conversation, you're going to uncover these positive deviant behaviors of ways that people are solving problems that you didn't even think about, or even a unique point of view that you didn't even think about. So, think about all of the fractional executive meetings that you've been to. I don't know if you've had any or have uncovered any positive deviance. That's always what I think about. That's where I spend all my time is how do I get more of positive deviant surfacing, like the cream on top? Like how do I get more of that? Because once that rises up to the top, now we can broadcast that innovation across the board, and that becomes the rising tide that lifts all boats in a lot of ways, right? there's some ways there's some things that potentially can happen that stop that cream from rising. One of those being if everyone in the group views each other as competitors, or they're holding their cards close to the chest. And so you have to design a space where that doesn't, I don't know if you'll ever completely get eliminated, but you mitigate that, and you make it such that you create a space where people feel like they can open up. And when they feel like they can open up, then they're not going to feel alone. Then you're going to get positive deviant perspectives, positive deviant result, like actions, all sorts of stuff. And so you might not get a breakthrough every time you interact with that community, but you will get a breakthrough enough. And it's on so I come from a behaviorist background, right? So the best way, think about slot machines. Slot machines, you don't know when you're going to get the reward.
No idea. Yeah.
No idea. But and that's what makes it very, very appealing. So in a lot of ways, if you can design your community around that, being able to access a new point of view, being able to access a new perspective, being able to um, meet a new person that you really like, those are all dopamine hits that come to you that create breakthrough moments that are going to progress your career. They're going to progress your mindset, whatever it might be. They're going to help you move forward.
I definitely, as you mentioned that topic, my brain immediately went. I know for sure I've shared some of those with people in the breakouts. Breakouts have been the magic. And small group, we can all chat, quick introductions, but then we're just sharing some things. And yeah, this is where I've always been surprised and intrigued. I've shared things and I've seen people light up and go, oh, I could, yeah. So I know I'm creating some, but I definitely remember having several aha moments where, just hearing how people were either doing meetings or how they were grinding. You know what? It was actually on one of those meetings where someone shared this thing where they were connecting with 30 people a week. And that was like their discipline, their weekly discipline. And it's like, and now it's so ingrained in my own discipline, my own structure to reach out to 30 people a week that I almost didn't until today just remember, where did that come from? It came from one of those breakouts where someone just casually shared, like, they do this thing. And I thought, man, that's so aggressive, but I love it. And I wonder if I could do that. And yeah, you can. And I would say a lot of my success in 2025 has been geared to just a simple takeaway of like, nope, I just set myself a goal of hitting 30 people on LinkedIn every week. And then boom, there it is. So like the value from that one little meeting, and then adopting it and executing it was huge.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I love that. Yeah. And that should happen all the time
Yeah.
inside a community. And that's why you should go. It's almost like they always use this example in behavioral economics where I don't get this locally, but I wish they did this. Here's your so the power company. Here's your power consumption for the month. Here's how you compare to your neighbors.
Yeah.
And they saw power consumption decrease, right?
Yeah.
That at the end of the day is a really good example of how community works. Is you come in, and if you can be open to receiving some new insights or whatever you might be feeling like, oh yeah, I can do that too. All of a sudden you get these nice benchmarks and all sorts of really fun stuff start to happen.
One of the things I want to take us to was something that I feel like we've both taken for granted because I've been attending these things and you are the grand community Pumbaa, which is like when you go, right? Almost like you're going to church or to community when you go. But I think a lot of times when I talk to people I'm kind of evangelizing a little bit of like the coolness of the communities I've seen with you, they're like, "Oh, cool. What app are you on?" As if the primary mechanism of participating is the digital participating. Talk to me about what you've seen there and smash some myths around that.
Oh man, damn. That is a good question. And I actually think that's where the opportunity is. Dang, dude, that was great.
Thanks. Well, let's just end here. You know what? Or, to hear the answer to this, hit my paywall and pay the $100. No, okay.
Yeah,
You
let's
get
do
the
it.
answer right here. Let's do it.
Well, okay, so the what I immediately thought of, and this is a great book, highly recommend, Priya Parker's The Art of Gathering. And she talks in that book, she talks about how event organizers, most of us spend too much time thinking about what the table spread looks like. So what is the actual event going to look like? And we don't spend any time thinking about the seating arrangement, the topics to be discussed. Like that's largely neglected in almost any event that I have ever attended. I remember coming so I was in the outdoor industry, taking people down the river, smashing them in the face with whitewater, one of my favorite things to do. And then coming into SaaS and went to SaaSter, and we're all listening to the CEO of Zoom talk about, how he raised money and put it all in the bank and blah blah blah. But the funny thing is we were all of us were startup, you know, in startups trying to make our way in the world. And the irony is that we're all sitting next to each other, listening to one person speak, when the value is in the people to my left and to my right. But when you go to those networking events, or when you go to any of those events, like, yeah, it looks cool, it's awesome, it's great, it's a lot of pizzazz to it, but there's not a lot of intention in, okay, how am I going to get these people to have a meaningful conversation? And that's what needs to change digitally. So everyone's thinking, oh, what are you on? What are you on? But they're not thinking about, how am I creating interconnection with people? How do I do that? What are the conversation topics? What are the programs? How do I arrange seating? How do I create serendipitous moments? Like, that's another thing, is architecting serendipity. How do I create opportunities where two people can have a serendipitous moment together? And we are so, like, from an innovation standpoint, we are lacking significantly there. And that is also why I think the loneliness epidemic, the departing Surgeon General, 30 something page report, he said the biggest problem we have is loneliness in this country.
Wow.
So how do we solve that problem? Well, we have to start thinking more intentionally about, all right, well, let's not just uncover this solution and sell this solution, but how do we have better presence with the people that we care to be around?
Yeah. Wow. It's not more drugs. It's probably not a SaaS app.
It could be both of those combined, and then that creates a great community.
A pretty wired one, right? As I drink my Celsius.
Probably.
I think sometimes people don't realize that. Yeah, I wrote down, architecting serendipity might be a cool book we should co-write together. But like,
That'd be fun.
but I think people don't understand that you can actually create moments. Like, you're doing that with the community. You're being intentional about creating those moments that feel like serendipity with the sock or whatever. By the way, that movie is stupid. It's not realistic. My wife loves it, but I hate it.
Wait. What movie is this?
Serendipity. Did you see that movie?
No, I haven't.
Bro, that's your
Well,
homework.
what does a sock have to do?
I bought his book, and then you can. Okay, serendipity in the movie, explain it. This guy and this girl meet like 4 or 5 times, and he's like, "Oh, what's your number?" She's like, "I won't give you my number, but if we ever meet again, that means it's fate, and then I'll give you my number, maybe." And then they happen to meet again, like 3 or 4 5 times in New York, which is impossible. Uh, and eventually, does he get spoiler, I don't know, I can't spoil it for you. Does he get her number or not? I don't know, I have to watch it this weekend.
Okay, it's on the
But
list.
but you're architecting it, right? Not just like it just happened. Okay, well, how can we make this more likely to happen than not? So what are some of the things that you do when you're planning these communities, and maybe the different things that go on in these conversations, right? And these are like conversations with people. These are like meetings, right? Not this is not talk about the prioritization of the in-person experience over necessarily the technical. Like, I even asked you the other day, like, "Hey, what platform should we get?" And you're like, "Hold off."
Well, so are you talking about live events versus digital events, or
Live events versus not live events whatsoever, just like, let's be all together on a Slack.
yeah. Okay.
Like, I think in my mind, in a lot of people's minds, when I say, "Oh, a community," they go, "Oh, you're gonna make
Slack.
a Slack channel,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what a community is.
Right. And it's so much more than that. So it's actually really fun. It's really, really fun. So I come from Well, I outdoor, and then I moved into tech, and I actually even tried to build my own. Lot of failures along the way, but tried to build my own tech platform that was based on connection. And there's some rules that govern how you go to market or how you build technology that people are going to use. Lean Startup by Eric Ries is the most probably widely known book
Yep.
around that.
Yep. Totally.
And so when I started getting into community years in, I began to, the first time we were building these virtual, gathering communities, and then we would always hear, I want a platform that would help us stay connected in between events.
Right.
So I was, so then I'd like, oh, okay, well, we're going to ask the people what they want, and then we're going to give them what they want. Like that sounds so simple, and it's not. So we asked them, what do you want? Oh, we want to stay in touch in between events. Okay, how do you want us to do that? Oh, Slack. Okay, we'll set up a Slack channel. Crickets. Oh, okay. What next community? We want to stay in touch in between events. What should we do? Well, what platform should we use? Oh, let's do Discord. Okay, set up Discord. Nothing, right? So it's not like building, even if you're building Slack, whatever it is, it it actually, what you're using doesn't matter. It's how you go about building it. You have to build it very carefully using the same principles that Eric Ries talks about in his book. Um, you don't just the first time I ever built a Slack community, I was like, oh, this would be fun to have this channel, and this would be fun to have this channel. And people came in, and there was like 10 channels, and there were like, 50 people, and it was too overwhelming for them. So there's a whole science to going about building these traditional communities that we think about, Slack communities, Discord, whatever it might be. But I think at the end of the day, people want to go to a place. It's Cheers. I want to go.
Yeah.
You could probably sing that song, but
Da-da-da-da.
yeah, we want to go to what?
Everybody knows your name.
Yeah, you want to go to a place where everybody knows your name,
Yeah.
and you. What that means is not necessarily everyone knows, Casey Cheshire, but they see you, and they recognize that you're similar to them,
Hmm.
and that what you have to share is going to be valuable to those other folks.
Yeah.
So it's the intersection of the persona that you really have to nail. It's a lot of the same basic stuff, is you've got to really figure out, narrow down who your persona is, and then if you do a good job bringing them into this space where you architect serendipity, just watch the molecules just combine. It's just super fun.
Oh man.
But it's we don't nail it every time. Most of the time we haven't nailed it, I'd say. And that's what we're constantly trying to optimize, is if we create, oh, I was going to tell you, this is what we hear a lot. And I think this is awesome. When I put people into breakout rooms, I can't, there's too many people. I can't predict who's going to be there a lot of the times, but all the time I will get feedback. Those people in my breakout rooms, like, I needed to hear what they had to say today. They were struggling with the same thing I was struggling with. And if I hadn't been in our breakout room today, I wouldn't have gotten X, X, and X. How did you assign me to those people? Because that's exactly who I needed. And my answer was always very carefully.
Yeah.
But the reality was, it was random.
It was Zoom random. Yeah.
But if you do the work to bring the right people there, it doesn't matter, because they're going to find, if they feel seen, heard, and respected, they're going to lead themselves to those insights.
Yeah. Dang. Dude, I could talk to you about community all freaking day, but I can't. Maybe we'll have, you know what? We're even going to create a new podcast just so we can talk to you all day about community. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that, y'all. But in the meantime, I want to transition a little bit, because you know all these things, and you've let us know that you have been that cool guy on the back of the raft doing your thing. So I just got to ask, like, who are you? Take me back in time. Little Paul days, did you know you're going to be the community absolute wizard, absolute strategist
Oh my
to the
gosh.
stars, and all these things? Like, what was it like, Little Paul days?
All right. I'm 8 years old, and I'm playing junior jazz basketball. and we had just got our basketball court installed in the back of our house. And I thought, oh, what would be so cool is let's make a basketball game. So I didn't have any teams. I just created this little banner and I said, um, it had tickets on the bottom and tickets were 50 cents. And I walked door to door and I just told people like, hey, there's going to be a basketball game at our house and tickets are 50 cents. Do you want to buy one? And we sold out. Like people bought them. I was expecting north of 50 people there. So then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got to get chairs. I got to do all this thing. So I had my basketball court set up. I tried to recruit the neighbor kids, but the neighbor kids didn't want to play basketball in front of the other neighbors' parents. And so at the end of the day, it was just me and 3 other people. And we were going to play this basketball game in front of the audience. I went and got chairs. The day came to have the basketball game and nobody showed up that bought tickets.
Dang.
That was the first time I realized, like, what? What? I was so confused. Like, you bought a ticket, but you're not going to come. You spent the money, but you're not going to come. And that was the first time when I began to realize, oh, this is way harder than it looks.
Right.
Fast forward to college, we started to do so we would have these parties at our house, and they were dance parties at the time. EDM or like dubstep music was really popular, and we loved it. And my roommate was a
I
DJ.
can see that. You had the long hair?
Yeah, I had long hair. Yeah,
Super long hair. What's up,
yeah,
man? Yeah.
dubstep. Wah, 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 wah.
Dubstep. Wow, wow, wow.
So we would have these. My roommate was a DJ, and we'd have these parties at our house, but we get shut down by the cops like 45 minutes to an hour in. And so
Damn.
then
Come
this
on.
was when like flash mobs were just becoming a thing. So then we were like, oh, what if we just did a 30-minute dance party and then shut it down? And by the time the cops come, nobody's there. And so if you go back to where I went to college today, they are still doing Dirty 30s today because they became so much fun. Like I remember one time we had so many people in our house that the walls were sweating, like dripping sweat.
Oh, no.
It was crazy. And we went downstairs and the floor was like bouncing up and down. It
Wow.
was crazy. But we would do these really fast, go all in for 30 minutes, these dance parties. And again, they're still doing them today. It's super fun. So that is who I am. I like to gather people for fun experiences.
Yeah. Dang. Well, it's working. It's working now. And now you are a fractional community leader. You are the king. Talk to the folks listening. If they're like, you know what? I want some of that magic. I want to help. I want to architect serendipity for my customer base, for my prospects. You work with those folks. They, how do they contact you, and what kind of things do you set up for them?
Thanks, man. Well, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Paul Jones, Bridgio, and happy to have a conversation. The biggest thing I would say is when we first start going down that road is how well do you know your persona, and is that the persona that you want to be spending most of your energy with? Do you enjoy being around these people? And if you really enjoy being around the persona that you're selling to, then I think community is a great spot for you. But if you're looking for a quick win, right? Or because a lot of the times I'm working with the founder or the CEO because I want them to be spending time. I truly believe that if they're spending time building this asset for their business, they're going to learn the challenges that their persona is facing on a regular basis. They're going to learn industry trends. They're going to be able to maintain relationships at scale. They will run better board meetings, better executive meetings, better meetings all around because they're holding close to them the persona that they're selling to at the end of the day. And so they'll build a better company as a result of that. And so what we do is we will do that for you. So when I build a community, it's not Paul's community. It's my client's community. And that's important because we spend, if you think about it, so many people spend so much effort and money accessing other networks that other people have built. But who owns all that social capital and all that social equity? It's the other organization. So if you invest in building your own, you know, social capital and your own social equity, it becomes you become the primary beneficiary of that network, even though you're providing value to everyone else that's a part of it. Um, so if you do enjoy your persona, if you still want to learn from them, want to maintain relationships at scale with them, a community approach, and my community approach again, you called this out. When you think about communities, you're thinking about thousands and thousands of people on a Slack channel. Our approach is the beginning of all that grassroots is at the very beginning. It's event based, but we're doing it on behalf of the client. So we'll do all the minutia work
Yeah.
for them. They'll get to show up and own the social capital of that. But because it's a fractional team, we'll do all the behind the curtain work for you.
Which is a lot, which is a lot. There's a lot of moving parts, and I know you actually will get people. I mean, look, I've worked with you. I think you're freaking fantastic. So if this turns into a sales pitch,
Thanks, man.
who cares? So blame me, but like I've like you go out and get the people. Like you'll go recruit them. Hey, there's this cool community. Come join the fun.
Well, yeah, on behalf of the client. So yeah, yeah, yeah,
On
yeah.
behalf of the client. Yeah, yeah.
By the way, your team's awesome. By the way, they are spot on.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, your team's awesome. You're great.
Yeah, awesome. High five.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So, my next question is a bit of a hypothetical question if you're ready.
Mhm.
All right. You see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So, you come out, you do a little visit, maybe get some East Coast skiing, AKA ice
That'd be
skating,
fun.
and we use the time machine, right? You go back in time, you get to meet yourself early 20s, right? You get to meet yourself a couple days after graduating. You just got out of college, you're free, and you get to talk to that version of you. What do you say? What kind of advice do you give yourself?
Mm, good question. Oh gosh.
Knowing what you know about your own strengths and weaknesses, and what did that guy need to hear back then?
That this came out years and years ago, 20, I don't know, 18. That Shia LaBeouf. Do it. Just
Yes.
do it. That's what it would be.
Yeah.
Do it and pivot. Do it and pivot. Do it and pivot. Do it and pivot. I mean, that's all business is. That's all marketing is. Whatever is
Yeah.
trying something and learning from it. Like the business that I started um, and ended up selling, what I thought it was going to be isn't what it turned out to be. That was the wild thing. And so just starting was the key, but where it took me was somewhere completely different I couldn't have predicted. So starting and then just enjoy the process because it is a process and there are ups and downs.
Man, but just do it and then
Yeah.
pivot, right? But like now here's the next question. Would that version of you have listened to you?
Mm, yeah, probably.
Oh, sick. I love you're like, "Whoa, you're me from the future, man."
Well, if not, I'd be like, if you don't do this, like take a pretty, you're gonna suffer like me, something like that. Like make it Nightmare Before Christmas or something.
Right,
Would
right.
yours? Would yours?
Yeah,
He would
yeah.
for sure.
But I have to tell myself about 7 or 8 times, you know? And I'd have to schedule, like, 8 emails to come to me, and then I'd have to use a time machine to talk to 4 other people and be like, "Hey, please give Casey this advice." I kinda need to hear it, like, several times, and I go, "Yeah, okay. Alright, I'll read that book," or,
I'll do it.
oh, hey, great idea." And I'm not saying it's my idea, but I'll go, "Oh my gosh, you know that thing that my wife said 12 years ago? Well, 30 people finally said it, and now I'm finally gonna do it." But yeah, if I coordinated enough people around it, I probably would have listened.
And you know what? Everyone should probably listen to their future self. Number one, you'd be so freaked out by it. Number two, they know exactly what you're thinking anyway, so it's the perfect pitch.
Right. You go, favorite number 23.
Uh,
Uh, Dude, hey, where can people connect with you if they want to reach out?
uh, I'd say find me on LinkedIn.
Yep.
We do a lot of LinkedIn lives. If you want to email me, Paul at Bridgio.io, Bridgio.io.
That's right.
Let's start a conversation.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And tell them, hey, you heard him on the podcast. You want to make this thing happen, right? I heard there's a $1 million off that $1 million price tag.
Oh, you heard that, huh? Where'd you hear that? Yeah, yeah. You just heard that on the streets.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know. Just rumor. Billions, billions. Not it's actually not a billion. It's much more affordable. Definitely reach out to Paul. Get your community going, man. It podcasting, community, partnerships. This is the magic.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. The intersection of podcast and community. That's maybe a part two. That'll be interesting.
Dude, we're totally right. The intersection. Maybe we do that on our CTM pod. We get that thing cranking. We do a little conversation over there, and you know what we'll do? We'll put it on this pod too, so you can hear it if you're listening to this pod. We'll cross promote those episodes so everyone can hear that combo. But yeah, man. Hey, Paul, thank you so much for coming on here. This has been absolutely freaking fantastic. I knew it would be. I've been so stoked the whole day. I'm like, I can't wait for this conversation. And it did not let me down.
Oh, nice. Thanks.
Everyone else has felt the same way, man. But thank you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on the show. And thanks for being the best community participant ever in the Fractional Executive Brain Trust.
Well, you are welcome. And I am happy to join those other communities. You can just pay me in beer and wine, and I will just show up and I'll be.
Yeah, yeah. Get on the ski slopes, little après.
You know what? And I need to get a Positive Deviance t-shirt that I can wear, and just show up in style, dude. But those listening, hey, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this episode with 1 person, 9 people, 3,000 is cool too. But even 1 person, right? Who do you know that's been trying all those other techniques? Paul talked about at the very beginning, right? If you're doing all that stuff, are you just working for Meta, right? Is your marketing just basically feeding them money? But if it's not working, consider that Positive Deviance. Try something different. The community feels right, feels natural. Do it up. Share this episode with someone else. Help them out. And with that, Paul, thanks again, sir. All right, everybody. This has been another crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.